but I have to just say, anyone who has doubted me over the past decade about this evil woman now needs to eat some humble pie.
My sources are saying that William no longer recognizes his brother. He basically says he doesn't know who this kid is. Harry has become petulant, he's become vengeful, he's very angry at all times, and William's just kind of like, hey, who the heck are you? And yes, they do blame Meghan.
Who does this? Who behaves like this?
Meghan Markle is threatening to sue the British royal family and Prince William if her titles are removed.
Harry has gotten with Meghan, and he now feels he has to protect her and, defend her at all costs, even when there's bad behavior involved.
Last Friday morning on the Isles of Scilly, the Prince of Wales walked into a hotel cafe and delivered something the entire country was not ready for: a live radio appearance on Heart Breakfast, reaching roughly 4 million listeners. He spent nearly 3 hours talking cream on scones, Aston Villa, and family life. And in all that time, he named exactly one absent person: his grandmother, the late Queen Elizabeth II. Not his brother, not his sister-in-law, and 2 children, Archie and Lilibet, were never mentioned. Not once. 3 royal biographers, Tom Bower, Tom Sykes, and Andrew Loney, have spent the last 6 months telling us, on the record and in print, that this silence was no accident. This was a choice. Think about that for a second.
Can we talk a little bit about Catherine? Because I just wanted to say how well she did in Italy. She's just come back. That was her first foray out there since her recovery.
Yeah.
How proud of you are.
So proud. I'm very, very proud. She's been amazing. She's been through so much in the last couple of years, particularly.
I can tell you for a fact that my sources that work under William and Catherine tell me that she is not a topic of conversation. She is not on their radar.
Oh, okay.
Harry and Meghan, what they do is not on their radar. They are not concerned about it.
This is the same broadcast where William named all 3 of his children without hesitation: George, now boarding at Lambrook; Charlotte, obsessed with Taylor Swift; Lewis, leaving jam fingerprints across the back seat of the car. The Wales family, named, photographed, scheduled, fully accounted for. The Sussex family, the other half of his late mother's grandchildren, completely erased from the conversation. Now, before we go further, let's talk about what Heart Breakfast actually is, because this matters. Heart is the biggest commercial radio brand in Britain. Its breakfast slot pulls in roughly 4.3 million listeners every single week, based on Global's most recent Rajar figures. The full Heart network reaches around 12.5 million people. This wasn't some quiet corner of Radio 4 Inches the early hours. This was the nation's most listened to chatty morning show, hosted by Amanda Holden and Jamie Theakston, broadcasting live from a Cornish cafe for the very first time in the station's history. Every single person running William's diary at Kensington Palace knew exactly how many ears were tuned in, and they picked this slot anyway. Not a formal press briefing, not a structured sit-down interview.
As I know it can be a little bit tricky with names and that kind of thing. So just simply Amanda is absolutely fine.
Yeah. Yes, I'll lose my title this morning. I was hoping for Dame, but it's not come yet, William. I'll talk to you about that
His
later.
Royal Highness.
His Royal Highness. Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Good grippy cream. You can't beat clotted cream. Now, Prince William, what do you do? Think carefully.
I love that I'm the authority on that.
Here's the big debate. Scones or scones? Scones. I just feel like if you say it really fast, people are like, yeah, you said it the right way. But he's asked about this. And this is, again, one of those cute, quirky, safe morning show questions. What goes first, your clotted cream or your jam? I love the fact that he's definitely trying to distance himself as the expert on the debate. He brings up his grandmother.
Joked about being late for the school run and
The warmest, most personal, most fatherly version of the Prince of Wales served up on a bank holiday weekend. He was charming. He was hoarse from Tuesday's win in Istanbul. He ranked Aston Villa's chances, settled the cream versus jam debate by invoking his grandmother's authority, joked about being late for the school run, and revealed that the song he runs to on a bad day is You Got the Love by Candy Staton. Relatable, human, deliberate. Every commentator in this country picked up on the real story within hours. He didn't need to say his brother's name to remind you there is a brother. The family portrait, he painted the wife, 3 named children, the late Queen, the parents who once brought him to the Scillies as a boy is a picture with a very specific shape. And that shape has a brother-sized gap in it. That gap has existed since 2018, and 3 biographers are now telling us William has decided to make it permanent. On November 8th last year, the Daily Beast published a column under Tom Sykes' byline, a veteran royal correspondent who has covered this family for nearly 2 decades.
Is this normally the time when you're doing the school run?
Yeah, I'm hoping that the children are on their way to school. They are listening this morning. I find music for me is so personal to how you're feeling and what you describe.
Yeah.
So it's almost like saying to me, like, who's your favourite person in the world? I can't answer that.
No,
but
you can't.
I love dance songs.
He's very like the late Queen, his beloved grandmother in that way. It's been instilled in him by her. All those afternoon teas that they were taking at Windsor Castle when he was a boy at Eton, the Queen was teaching him what's going to happen. She was showing him, this is what you do when you take over the throne. And William has learned from the best that there was, and that was the late Queen Elizabeth II. And it is always that duty and country comes before anything. Before even family.
The headline, and this is word for word, Prince William plots bonfire of royal titles when he becomes king. Read that again. Bonfire of royal titles. According to Sykes, the Prince of Wales has decided to use letters patent in the early weeks of his reign to strip every non-working royal of their HRH and princely titles. Not 1, not 2, every single non-working royal, and the column names names starting with Prince Andrew. Sarah Ferguson is on that list too. So are Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie. Prince Harry is named. His wife is named. Archie and Lilibet are named. That was last November, and yes, royal correspondents float trial balloons every single week. But here's what makes this one different. The very next day, Buckingham Palace did not deny the column. Neither did Kensington Palace. Sarah Ferguson stayed silent. Tom Sykes was not sued. He was not pulled. The column ran without a single correction. And then came the detail that made everything click. On October 30th, 3 weeks before Sykes even published, the king had quietly stripped Prince Andrew of his HRH and his princely titles via letters patent.
But when William does take to the throne, we're going to see a much harder line being taken by him, a much harder approach. Prince William is a man who does not suffer fools gladly. At the moment, Charles has made Harry a councillor of state.
Terrible.
Is this a problem? So what William's going to have to do, and this is what I think William will do when he takes the throne, now this will obviously hinge on Harry still being married to that woman, Meghan Markle. So this all depends on that. If Harry is still married to Meghan, William will strip the titles.
The exact mechanism Sykes described wasn't theoretical at all. It had already been tested on the most senior family member it could possibly be tested on. Then in May this year, 6 days before William's heart breakfast appearance, Sykes published a second column. This one focused on Project Thor, the rumoured reconciliation between Charles and Harry. Sykes, who had been quietly sceptical about whether the king's outreach was genuine, wrote that coordinated messages now coming from both Harry's office and the King's office had pushed the story past pure speculation and into something verifiable. 2 offices, coordinating messaging. Project Thor is real, and William, the 3rd office in this story, remains completely silent on it. On March 26th this year, Bonnier Books UK published Betrayal, the long-awaited new Tom Bower biography, and follow-up to his 2022 book Revenge. For anyone unfamiliar with Bower, this is not a tabloid gossip merchant. This is an investigative biographer with nearly 50 years of experience taking on the rich and the powerful. His Robert Maxwell book put a publishing empire's finances on trial.
When Charles was really resisting any action against Andrew, and William was really saying, we have to let the police in, we have to let the police do their worst, we have to we have to remove all the protection from him, we have to kick him out of the tent so that he's not part of us, and if that means that he ends up in a court cell or a jail, we'll have to see how the cards fall. People close to Charles were telling me at the time, it's all very well to say that when you're not the king, but when you're king, things look a little different. different.
From a source of hers close to the palace, directly addressing the persistent talk of a Project Thor between Harry and the royal family, was that no one ever wants to see Meghan again. And who can blame them? Paula reports from her source, I spoke to one of my very good sources, and no, there is no Project Thor. The reason why is that yes, the king would like to see his son and his grandson. No one ever wants to see Meghan again, but they understand Harry is fully untrustworthy.
His Bernie Ecclestone book forced Formula One into a reckoning on accountability. His sources are lawyered to within an inch of their lives, and his track record speaks for itself. Betrayal contains one chapter, a single, devastating chapter about the Prince of Wales, and exactly how he intends to handle his brother once he becomes king. And there is one line in that chapter that needs to be said out loud and put on the record. Bower writes, "William was taking no prisoners. Once he was crowned as king, his brother might well show no mercy to him and Meghan. He might even strip Archie and Lilibet of their titles." That is one sentence, written by a man whose sources include serving and former senior aides to both the King and the Prince of Wales. And that sentence may be the most consequential thing written about the British monarchy this entire year. Bower's chapter also gives us a specific date, the moment William reportedly made his decision. According to Bower's sourcing, William decided against inviting his brother to his eventual coronation on the very same afternoon Harry was being excluded from the pre-funeral Buckingham Palace reception for the late Queen. A reception of 1,000 guests, and that decision was made not last week, not last year, but 3 years ago. Bower's verdict on the root cause is just as direct. He documents a view attributed to Queen Camilla, reported through a known palace insider, that the Duchess of Sussex had, in Camilla's own reported words, brainwashed Harry. That is Camilla's reported language, documented in the book. Bower's job is to report it, and the palace has not taken him to court. The book is published, distributed, and selling. There is one more line from the book worth putting on the record before moving on, because it pulls on the financial thread running through all of this. Bower writes, quoting his sources, that the Sussexes need roughly $3 million a year just to stay afloat, and across every front, Netflix, Spotify, their various ventures, the income is...
He will strip the titles. But if Harry's divorced from Meghan by that point, which he could be, who knows? It's a long time yet in the future. But if he's divorced by that point, William may take a different approach, a less harsh approach. Say, okay, Harry's now away from that woman. I'm going to try and repair my relationship with him. It'll take time, but let's bring him back into the royal family. But this is at the moment, we're talking a long way. This is all hypothetical if Harry is no longer with Meghan. If he is still with Meghan, bye-bye to Harry and Meghan. No more Duke and Duchess. That will be gone.
Anger and resentment, it might be there on the part of William towards Harry. How angry is William about Harry, do you think?
Extremely angry. That's why I'm saying he loves him as a brother, but does he like behaviour that Harry has displayed in the last several years?
In his words, drying up. A title is collateral. A title is a brand asset. Strip the title, and you strip the asset. The third biographer in this story is Andrew Loney, a historian who has spent the last 20 years writing about the royals who don't make the official Christmas card. He published a book called Entitled in November last year, focused on Prince Andrew but with a substantial second half covering the wider succession picture. In an Australian Women's Day exclusive promoting the book, Loney was asked a straight question, no caveats about what William would do to Andrew once he becomes king. Loney's answer, in his exact published words, William will do it alone and probably get rid of Harry as well. Get rid of, as well, 2 non-working royals demoted in a single legal motion. In a News Nation interview that followed, Loney went even further. He said, quoting verbatim, that William's view is, we're becoming irrelevant. People are just laughing at us. The we in that sentence is the institution itself, the institution William will inherit, the one he believes is being dragged into disrepute by the relatives he refuses to name on the radio. And Loney is not the only senior voice on record here. Sunday Times royal editor Roya Nicker, widely understood to be the journalist most senior royals trust with their most carefully placed leaks, described William last year in a Times radio segment in terms worth hearing.
Dramas. And as I say, William's a man who gets on with it. He's not into navel-gazing, Mark, or psychobabble language, which we hear coming out of Hollywood, which has filled Harry's head with nonsense.
Harry and Meghan had a success or two, but then a ton of failure after that. The Netflix thing didn't go as well as I thought it would. Their futures in Hollywood are looking quite bleak at this point. They have a ton of things, quote unquote, in development, but nothing in production.
Precisely. William, she said, is someone who does hold a grudge. He does choose sides. If someone picks the other side, he remembers that. He remembers that. He remembers Oprah. He remembers the bridesmaid dress dispute before the wedding, the apartment tensions at Kensington over Catherine, the brainwashing language Bauer documented, and the pre-funeral reception his brother was excluded from. The Prince of Wales has a memory, and the biographers have all noticed it. Now, picture the family chessboard this week, because this is not a board with one king, it is a board with two. On one side, the king. He held a 50-minute private tea with his younger son at Clarence House on September 10th last year, the first father-son meeting in 19 months, the first since the cancer diagnosis became public. According to multiple reports from the Daily Mail, Now to Love, and the Daily Beast, the King's Deputy Private Secretary Theo Rycroft, a former British Embassy Deputy Head of Mission in Paris, brought in specifically for sensitive assignments, has been openly described by senior royal correspondents as the key architect behind what Richard Eden at the Daily Mail named Project Thor. Rycroft is reported to have told colleagues the family situation had reached the point where it was, in his words, time to knock their heads together. The King's Communications Secretary, Tobin Andrea, met Harry's then Chief of Staff, Meredith Maines, at the Royal Overseas League last summer. This is a king dealing with a serious illness, hurting over the family rift, and working through senior aides to quietly soften the wall.
I suspect, Charles gave undertakings to his mother to take care of Andrew. I suspect the deal was done to get Andrew out of Royal Lodge, and that may have involved, taking care of the daughters. And there may be concerns about keeping them in the tent still, rather than being a loose cannon outside. The one way they can control both Andrew and Sarah Ferguson is through the future of the daughters. So there may be something in this, but I think William realizes the reputational damage.
Disappointment has got to a point that he's almost resigned to their, shall we say, unroyal-like behaviour that they have displayed over the last several years. He sighs, he rolls his eyes. He's just fed up of it all. He really is. But I think William feels like much of the country does about them. But the difference is for Prince William is the danger that his brother Harry and his wife Meghan Markle present to him.
And on that very same day, the king visited Golders Green to meet two Jewish men who had been seriously hurt in an anti-Semitic attack the previous month. The exact same day, Prince Harry's essay on anti-Semitism appeared in the New Statesman. Columnist Tom Sykes contacted the Sussex office to ask whether the timing was coordinated. The Sussex office denied it, but conceded the piece had gone to print, in their words, several days ago. That doesn't rule out coordination. It just clarifies the editorial timeline. In other words, the king is softening, the king's aide is brokering, and both offices are putting out parallel messages on the same day. Make of that what you will. Now look at the other side of the chessboard, the Prince of Wales. The same week that essay landed and the king was holding hands in Golders Green, William did one thing in public. He cheered Aston Villa to a Europa League win in Istanbul on Wednesday. Then he flew home, spent Friday morning on Heart Breakfast, and named absolutely no one from his brother's household, not once, across a 4 million listener breakfast slot. Nothing in his aisles of silly engagements that afternoon either. Nothing in the news cycles that followed. If the king is reaching out, the prince is not, and the biographers have already told us exactly why. William, per Bauer, has decided not to forgive. Per Sykes, he has decided to legislate. Per Lowney, he intends to do it alone. And before anyone says this is overreading a radio show, this family does not communicate through press releases. It never has. The signals travel through absences. The grandmother stopped wearing her brooch. The father did not invite the son. The brother does not say the name on heart breakfast. That is how this institution has always operated. That is how a culture built on the stiff upper lip delivers its verdicts, not through what is said, but through what is deliberately left out. You don't need a press release, you just need to count the names. And the count is exact. He named 1 absent person. He refused to name 4. Across 3 hours of his most charming, most fatherly, horse from football best, every gesture of warmth was directed at his wife, his children, and the late grandmother who put cream on first.
No.
So William blames Meghan.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. This trouble all started when Meghan married Harry. They were rowing in the build-up to the wedding. Meghan upset Princess Catherine, William's wife, over the row to do with the children, the bridesmaids. It was a silly tiff, but William saw then Meghan's behaviour. And Meghan was dangerous. She was going to be a danger to the Waleses, and she was going to cause problems and dramas and necessary.
The 4 names he never said are the exact 4 names 3 biographers have told us he intends to make less royal the moment he takes the crown. There is no alternative reading of this. There is only the comfortable version where we keep saying perhaps it was nothing, or there is the version where you trust your own ears. I trust mine, and I think you should trust yours. So here is what I want you to hold on to next month. Next year, the morning you wake up and the news bulletin tells you the king is gone and a new king has signed his first letters patent. Remember this radio interview. Across nearly 3 hours, the future king of the United Kingdom and 15 Commonwealth realms named 1 absent person his grandmother and refused to name 4. He spoke warmly about a wife who is recovering from a serious illness, one that will continue to be handled here with the dignity and care her recovery deserves. He praised her with quiet, steady words, an amazing mum, an amazing wife, and literally our family couldn't cope without her. Think about that for a second. This is the future king of the United Kingdom, sitting in a Cornish cafe on a bank holiday Friday, telling 4 million people that his household does not function without the woman beside him. That is not a talking point. That is not a media strategy. That lands differently when you understand what this family has been through publicly over the last 7 years. He talked about Charlotte being a full Taylor Swift devotee, not casually interested, not just a fan, fully committed. He laughed about Louis leaving jam fingerprints across the back seat of the car. He accidentally confirmed the boarding school detail about George, something royal correspondents tell us was not exactly a planned disclosure. It slipped out the way real things slip out, naturally, without a press officer catching it in time. And the room laughed, and William laughed, and 4 million people laughed with him.
The difference is for Prince William is the danger that his brother Harry and his wife Meghan Markle present to him for when he does take the throne, because his father King Charles is insistent that Harry remains a Councillor of State. Now, some viewers might say, what's a Councillor of State? What does that mean? It means that if something happens to William when he's king, Harry would have the powers to act on behalf of him. That's not something Prince William's going to want to have happen, is he now, really? And that's not something the country's going to want to have happen as well. So I think while his father's still alive, his dad's not a well man, as we know. King Charles has got cancer, we all know that. And so I think William's just taking the soft, gentle approach right now. And okay, Dad, that's your choice. I get it. Harry's your son still. You are going to have that feeling that you want him back in the royal family.
On Wednesday night, of course, Aston Villa won the Europa League final, and it made me excited watching it, seeing how excited you were.
Yeah, well, I try and remind myself that that I am a football fan. I'm just going there to enjoy myself. But then I see the following day and I realize, actually, a lot of people are watching you. Stop doing that.
So, like, I get the sense that he is serious, that he forgets that he wants to just be there as a football fan, and forgets that, like, the next day, this game they normally wouldn't be talking about, because there's such a fun video of the Prince of Wales reacting wildly to a win or a score. I hope I grabbed the video. Maybe I didn't, though. There's a video of him as the ball is getting closer to the goal. His eyes get wide, and then he jumps up out of his seat. And it's so fun to see that just, carefree reaction.
Mm-hmm. The late Queen's preferred order of cream before jam came up, because of course it did, because that is exactly the kind of detail that tells you who someone's North Star was. Not a state portrait. Not a constitutional function. The cream before the jam. The right way to build a scone, according to the woman who shaped him. He invoked her authority on a breakfast radio debate, the way you invoke someone you genuinely miss, not someone you are performing grief for. He even revealed the track he reaches for when a run is going badly and he needs something to pull him through. You Got the Love by Candy Staton, not a curated playlist answer. Not the kind of song you name when you are trying to seem cool or current. That is the song of someone who has stood in a dark place and needed to be pulled forward. The audience felt that. The hosts felt that. The country felt that. And in the middle of all of that warmth, and let's be clear, this was genuine warmth, the kind that cannot be coached. The kind a grandmother in Brisbane texts her sister about at 8:30 on a Friday morning, sat a silence. Not an awkward silence, not an accidental silence. A precise, deliberate, perfectly constructed silence. A silence shaped exactly like a brother, a sister-in-law, a young nephew, and a young niece. Now let's talk about what that silence actually means, because this is where the story gets serious. William did not trip over his brother's name and avoid it. He did not pause awkwardly and redirect. He simply built a complete picture of his family, warm, detailed, specific, human, and that picture had an outline.
On the part of William regarding his father, he loves his father, he admires his father. But Charles has been a lot weaker on Harry. We had the Clarence House face-to-face, didn't we, in September of last year, which I think was a mistake because it's more material for the next documentary, more material for Spare 2. This time it's personal.
Look at the amount of disrespect this would be to William, because that is his mother as well. You know, Meghan does not care about her connection to this family. If you are in close proximity, she is going to steal it to help herself, but not consider, how disrespectful it is to take from someone that is like in your family, so to speak, that you don't even care about doing the right thing to get permission or to see if it would be okay. You just want to run with it. And that's what I find so distasteful about this woman. She just does things that are so not the way things are done.
And the outline was the shape of everyone he chose not to include. That is not an accident. That is architecture. Royal families do not communicate the way the rest of us do. They do not call press conferences to announce disappointments. They do not go on morning television to air grievances. They communicate through presence and absence, through what appears in the photograph and what does not, through who stands on the balcony and who is left off the guest list. The signals this family sends have always traveled through the gaps, and last Friday, the gap was enormous. Think about every other name he found room for. His wife. 3 children, named individually, with specific and personal details attached to each one. His late grandmother, not just mentioned, but actively invoked as a moral authority on scone etiquette. His parents, referenced in the context of childhood holidays on the Scillies. Even Aston Villa's squad got more airtime than the Sussex household.
I'm really glad it went really well, and she wanted to go and do lots of research. She spends God knows how much time now looking through all the paperwork. She's a proper pro on early years, and so most evenings I'm fighting to get past in the bedroom all the paperwork that she's got lined up ready to read. So I'm so pleased it went well for her, and I think she came back buzzing.
So it's a lovely insight, isn't it, to their life and how Catherine really does her work even in the bedroom. But they discuss the serious aspect of it, how tough the cancer diagnosis was, where William emotionally admitted the family just couldn't cope without her.
William William's a practical man. Okay, my dad's got cancer. It's sad, but I've got to get on with it. My wife's got cancer. It's horrible, but I've got to get on with it. I'm going to be the king. I've got to get on with it. That is what I have to get on with. He's not there saying, why me? This is awful. Why is all these horrible things in life happening to me? But he doesn't think like that because he knows it's happening to millions of people around the world. William is a doer. He's not a taker. He's a giver. He's a doer. He gets on with
and
the
he's
job.
not a victim.
That is the picture. That is the complete, deliberate, carefully constructed picture, and 4 names are missing from it. The last time William and his brother walked together in public without visible tension between them, they were 2 boys in dark suits walking behind their mother's coffin through the streets of London. A city that had stopped, a country that was holding its breath, 2 children carrying something no child should have to carry in front of every camera in the world. That image is burned into the memory of an entire generation. The Queen who came out of the Abbey to receive that coffin, the same Queen who had never bowed publicly to anyone in her life, chose the very next day to break protocol and bow to a people who were grieving alongside her. That Queen understood the weight of a gesture. That Queen understood that what you do publicly and what you withhold publicly carries meaning that words cannot always match. That Queen is the only absent person William named on Heart Breakfast last Friday. The grandmother is named, the brother is not. And 3 biographers have spent the last 6 months telling us, in print and on the record, with sourcing that has not been challenged in court, that this is not a temporary estrangement. This is a decision. A considered, deliberate, legally structured decision, and the Prince of Wales confirmed it, live to the biggest commercial breakfast audience in Britain. So let's pull all of this together, because the full picture is more significant than any single piece of it. You have Tom Bower, one of Britain's most respected investigative biographers, writing in Betrayal that William has decided not to forgive, that he intends to show no mercy when he takes the crown, and that the titles held by his brother's children are not safe. That book is published, it is selling. The palace has not taken Bower to court. You have Tom Sykes, the Daily Beast's veteran royal correspondent, writing that William has already planned the legal mechanism letters patent to strip every non-working royal of their HRH and princely titles the moment he becomes king. And critically, that mechanism is not theoretical. It was tested on Prince Andrew in October last year. The blueprint exists. It has already been used. You have Andrew Lowney, the historian who has spent 2 decades documenting the extended royal family, going on record to say that William intends to act alone and that Harry is on that list alongside Andrew. 2 non-working royals, 1 legal motion. Lowney said it out loud, on the record, with his name attached to it. You have Roya Nikar, the Sunday Times royal editor, the journalist most senior royals trust for their most carefully placed information, describing William as someone who holds a grudge, who chooses sides.
Would it be overstating it to say that William does not like his brother?
He doesn't like his brother's behaviour, right, in the way that his brother's acted.
Yeah.
He doesn't like the way he's been. He's disgusted by him. He's appalled.
Wow.
He's let down by him. He's angry. He's still a very, very, very angry man. Tries to roll his eyes. But a lot of this comes down, Mark, to Meghan Markle. She is the fly in the ointment. And William believes that if Meghan wasn't on the scene, this would never have happened.
And who remembers when someone chose the other one. He remembers Oprah. He remembers the interview that aired while his grandfather was in hospital. He remembers the book. He remembers the Netflix documentary. He remembers every single public move his brother made, and he has a memory that the biographers have all independently noticed and documented. And then you have the king, the other side of the chessboard. A father with a serious illness, working through senior aides, brokering quiet contact, putting out coordinated messaging on the same day as his younger son's essay, reaching across the rift in whatever time he has left to reach across it. Project Thor is real. The meetings have happened. The aides have been deployed. The king is trying. And William is watching all of it and staying silent. Not accidentally silent, deliberately silent. The kind of silent that books get written about. The kind of silent that 3 biographers document across 6 months of sourced, lawyered, published work. Now, here is something that does not get said enough in coverage of this story. William is not wrong to feel what he feels. Whatever happened in that family, the interviews, the book, the documentary, the allegations made publicly while family members were grieving and ill, those things landed. They were felt. The wounds are real. Nobody who has followed this story seriously for the last 7 years is pretending otherwise. Grief is complicated. Betrayal is complicated. Public betrayal by someone you grew up with in front of the entire world is something most of us will never have to navigate. William is navigating it as the heir to one of the most scrutinized institutions on the planet. But here is where it gets complicated for the institution itself, because Archie and Lilibet are children. They did not give interviews, they did not write books, they did not make decisions about what got said publicly and what did not. They are young children growing up in California, and the question of whether their grandfather's titles get stripped from them by letters patent the moment their uncle takes the crown is not a question about their parents. It is a question about them, and the biographers have flagged it, and the public has noticed it. And that question is sitting in the middle of this story like something nobody in the institution quite knows how to answer out loud. The monarchy's entire argument for its own existence rests on continuity, on the idea that the institution is bigger than any individual within it, that it transcends personal feeling, that it represents something stable and enduring in a world that keeps shifting. Every coronation, every jubilee, every carefully managed public appearance is built on that argument. And the argument gets complicated when the institution is seen to be using its legal mechanisms to settle personal scores across generations. That tension is real. The biographers have seen it. The commentators have written about it. And last Friday morning on Heart Breakfast, 4 million people felt it, even if most of them could not have told you exactly why. The Prince of Wales is not an uncomplicated figure. He is a man who has lost his mother, watched his family fracture publicly, taken on the weight of an institution under enormous pressure, supported a wife through a serious illness while managing 3 children and a global public role, and done most of it without the full support of the brother he grew up with. That is a heavy set of circumstances. And he carried all of it into that Cornish cafe on Friday morning and turned it into something that felt, to 4 million listeners, like warmth and normality and the cream before the jam. But warmth and normality built on a precise, deliberate absence is still an absence. And the absence has a shape, and the shape has names. And 3 biographers have told us what happens to those names the morning the letters patent gets signed. So here is where we land. The grandmother is named, the brother is refused, the children of the brother go unspoken. The king is reaching. The prince is not. The legal mechanism has been tested. The sources are on the record. The books are published and selling and unchallenged in court. And last Friday, on the biggest commercial breakfast show in Britain, the future king painted the most human, most detailed, most warmly received portrait of his family that he has ever given to the public, and 4 people were not in it. That is the story. Not the jam debate, not the Aston Villa result, not the running track song. As revealing as that was, the story is the silence. The story is always the silence with this family. So here is what I want you to hold on to, not just today, but next month, next year, the morning you wake up and the news bulletin tells you that the king is gone and a new king has signed his first letters patent. Come back to this. Come back to the Friday morning in the Cornish cafe, to the 3 hours of warmth and football and scones, to the 4 names that never came up once, because that morning will make a lot more sense looking back than it does looking forward. Now, I want to hear from you because this community reads this family better than most royal commentators give it credit for. Was the silence a kindness? Was William deliberately keeping his brother's family out of the public conversation to protect what little privacy remains between them? Or was the silence the verdict delivered live to 4 million people on a bank holiday Friday morning with the cream before the jam and, You got the love on the running playlist. Drop your reading in the comments below. Was it kindness or verdict? I read every single one, and this community's analysis genuinely shapes how these stories get told here, so do not hold back. If this breakdown gave you something to think about, hit that like button. It costs nothing, and it genuinely helps this content reach more people who care about how this family really communicates beneath the surface. Share this one, because the people in your life who follow this story need to hear the full picture, not just the headlines. And subscribe if you are not already here, because what is coming next is the chapter that connects all of this legally and constitutionally in ways that will change how you understand everything we just covered. The next piece is dropping in the next few days, and we are walking through what letters patent actually do, what they have done historically, and critically, what they cannot do without Parliament's involvement. The legal picture is more complicated than the headlines suggest, and you are going to want to understand it before the moment arrives. See you in the next one, where the silences are read with the same care as the speeches, where 3 biographers publishing in the same 6-month window count as a chorus that demands to be heard, and where the names that never get said carry the heaviest part of the story.